Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another 3 Questions with Andrew. I'm really excited about our guest today. We played a lot of calendar shuffling in order for this to happen. That gives you an idea as to how busy he is within our space. I am so happy to welcome Marcos Salazar. Welcome, sir.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrew.
Awesome. Let's do this quick out of the gate. Just tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so currently I am the CEO of the Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association. So it's the first trade association and pretty much only trade association for adult non-alcoholic beverages. And that adult piece is really important because it's products that are marketed towards adults of legal drinking age, 0.5 ABV or below. That's like the technicality of it. But it's really those products that are similar to alcohol, but they're under 0.5 ABV. So no coffees, teas, waters. It's really those beverages that you end up having at adult occasions whenever you're sipping, connecting, or celebrating.
You've definitely said that a couple of thousand times. I feel like that was so smooth and important.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's as an ambassador of the category and helping to grow the category. I mean, I love speaking with people about it. And at the end of the day, it's really about including people in all those social situations. So everybody has a really great tasting beverage. Again, whenever they're sipping, whenever they're going out, whenever they're celebrating, just so that everybody has an opportunity to enjoy something tasty.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And that's a great segue into first question I want to ask you. And I'm going to use your terminology, right? Being an ambassador of this space, right? People who are ambassadors, in my mind, have an interest, have a passion, have a calling, whatever word you want to kind of put in there about what they're doing, right? To represent it. Can you talk a little bit about how you arrived to being, right, the driver behind ANBA and some of the motivations that got you there and some things that kind of keep you motivated to keep going?
Yeah, around 2019, I just started reevaluating my relationship with alcohol. I was an entrepreneur. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Got into a bad habit of probably drinking too much when I was thinking it was going to be creative. There was this really amazing dive bar that I used to go to do work. And then 1 hour turned into 2 hours and 3 hours, getting a lot of work done, but also having a lot of beers or a lot of cocktails. So when I was kind of recognizing that it wasn't serving me as the way that I thought it was, I started finding that there was these adult non-alcoholic alternatives out there. So just started kind of seeing what was available. And I'm the person at a party that goes in, raids the fridge and the cabinets, and loves making cocktails for everybody, my own concoctions. So I got to know a lot of the founders, and I actually decided to start a company built around it. It was called For All Drinks. And it was going to be an event-based company. I was in New York. I was going to do booze-free happy hours, speakeasies, karaoke, and then COVID hit. So transitioned the company For All Drinks into an online company. Launched the first podcast on non-alcoholic beverages, did tons of virtual events, giveaways, marketing, and all these really cool opportunities to expose NA brands to consumers. But through that process, I started to connect with founders like yourself and started to see the challenges from a business and industry standpoint they were facing, whether it was regulatory, getting into retail, being able to connect with distributors. So that's what really led to the launch of the association, and ended up finding some founders that already had thought about this idea. So we created a working group and then eventually recruited a board of 11 board members and founded that first nonprofit on trade associations. And it's been about 4 years, and we've gotten so much accomplished in 4 years, whether it's advocating and supporting brands and navigating this new and kind of ever-changing regulatory environment, building out resources so that they can grow their businesses, partnerships at trade shows. And we're just beginning. So there's a lot of really fun stuff that we're going to get to do. And my end goal is really building out the infrastructure and that connective tissue for the category so that ANBA is here for decades and decades to come to really grow the category.
Yeah, no, I would say, right, as one of the first members, right, to join, I think once you kind of put it all together, I think we're going on our 3rd year now. It was nice because a lot of the brands out there, a lot of my fellow co-founders, right, we are startups, we are small businesses, and we're entering a new world. And a lot of us, myself included, right, I don't have a beverage or hospitality background. And so I think the service that ANBA does of okay, here are some of the things that those ahead of you have learned and have figured out that's going to speed up those who are coming after being able to navigate, like you said, whether it's finding a distributor or I remember one of the big things early on, I was like, hey, I need to figure out bottle deposit laws so I know what to put on my labels. And that was one of the first things I remember we went back and forth on emails about. And I was like, all right, this is cool. Like, this is why we're members. Those types of little things are immensely helpful to founders. And so I'm so thankful that you're there and everyone's there. All of us, there's that analogy, right? We're all still in this bay, right, of all these ships. So when one of us learns something, right, we can all lift each other up.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of this category. Everybody's very collaborative. Yes, everybody's competing for shelf space and distributors and everything, but they also know that we're all in this together. And if we find something out, it's great to share it with other brands, and then we're helping to grow the category completely. Because I mean, I think one kind of quick stat I was talking with someone recently about in terms of the growth potential is that Europe is pretty much like 3 to 5 years ahead of the US for a number of reasons in terms of the growth of the category. So the adult NA category is less than 1% of adult beverages, but in places like Germany, it's 15%, 16%, Spain, it's 17%. So there is such a huge growth opportunity that it's really not trying to get your piece of the pie and then kind of leaving. It's really how do we collectively expand the pie and really grow together to provide more options for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And that's a good way to kind of go into the second question that I want to ask you. And that is, right, I think you have this unique purview of seeing, right, brands, right, how they navigate the space, but right, brands are only successful, right, when there's liquid to lips, and that predominantly, right, is happening either through right on premise, our bar and restaurant hospitality partners, or it's happening through our retail, our off premise partners. And I know, right, you do a lot of advocacy and organizing when it comes to like trade shows. And so, can you talk to me a little bit from what you see? What are some of the things you think are going to be, if we were to look back next year at 2025, it would be a year this shift happened or something really turned a corner, whether it's things that brands can do, whether it's things that retailers do, or everyone sort of does together. What would be some of your, at this point in time, right, predictions for the year that you would say would be the theme of 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of name a couple that I see that are opportunities, but also challenges. So a huge opportunity, and what's unique about the category is that it's the product can be distributed both through beverage alcohol distributors, traditional distributors, but also food distributors. And that's really unique. And I think there's going to be a really big push into retail, into the natural food channel, because you're starting to see Whole Foods, Sprouts, a number of others, Target and others that are getting these products through those channels and creating non-alcoholic sets. So I think there's going to be a lot more retailers that are starting to do that. The challenge that I'm also seeing is the distribution piece and distributors trying to figure out and understand and wrap their heads around the category. That's a bit of the bottleneck, and I'm starting to see it because I was just at a bar and restaurant expo. I spoke at a New York Restaurant Association, and restaurants and bars totally get this, and they understand the need to bring these in, but they rely on those alcohol distributors or bigger distributors, and they're a little bit of the bottleneck in the sense of getting those into the restaurants and bars. So I think that's going to start to change, and we really want to support distributors to start understanding how to integrate and market these products to get them to the places that people kind of eventually want to buy. The other piece that's really interesting is that I think states are starting to see the growth of the category. One of the big things we're working on is mapping out all the regulations across all 50 states. But you're starting to see some states seeing the opportunity, especially the economic opportunity, to integrate these beverages into stores. So, for example, in New York, there's this old law that doesn't allow liquor stores to sell anything under 10% ABV. So you go to a liquor store in New York, can't get soda, can't get water, can't get, like any kind of sparkling water or anything like that. You got to buy that at the grocery store. So we're actually working with the New York State Senator to pass a law to allow liquor stores to be able to sell these products. And in speaking with some of our members, it's kind of two things. One, looks like it'd be a 30 to 40% growth in revenue just from that. There's over 3,800 liquor stores in the state of New York. And then the second, there's economic opportunities to be able to work with that getting to restaurants and bars and a number of other places as well. So it supports these small liquor store businesses also. Yeah. So those are the kind of things that we're starting to see. And then I think we were speaking about this earlier, is that I think we're starting to see non-alcoholic beverages in places that, aside from restaurants and bars, that you kind of, it makes sense once you hear it, but you're not thinking about it. Whether this is stadiums, venues, concerts, festivals, hotels, yoga studios, cruises. There's so many places where these beverages are able to fit, and we're going to start seeing more and more of that in the next year or two.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I mean, I know especially, like, talk about the kind of the New York and liquor store law, and as those things, right, will change, I think there's enough like incentive across all the partners and parties involved to make that change. You know, you probably know the percentage better than me, but the biggest barriers we always hear, at least on the non-alc spirit side in terms of purchase, is availability, right? So everyone can buy the non-alc online, but there's something to be said, right, for picking up the bottle, for touching it, looking at the back of the label, and when you're in an area that it's very hard to find those, or it's very, very difficult, right? Because, you know, big retail has started to like look at it, but it's not fully adopted, and you're kind of hard, you know, let's say top 5 retailers. Finding it in liquor stores, that's the next logical place, right? Well, if I'm going to buy a non-alc spirits, it should be where those are, right? And so that availability, I know, is definitely something we are always trying to overcome by being in more of those brick and mortar places. And so I'm really happy that things are continuing to progress with that change. And then the second piece, finding your options outside of your normal radius of consumption, let's call it that. So, right, you know, here in Houston where we're at, right, I know the bars that have good non-alcohol options, I know the restaurants that have good non-alcoholic options. When I go on vacation, it's another story. So I can go from having a really sophisticated, no or low cut above cocktail to now maybe I'm at a hotel or resort, whether in country and outside the United States. It goes back to, 10, 12 years ago, where it's pure mocktail options that are sugary, very simple cocktails, and it's a little bit of an afterthought. And so I know one of our focuses this year is on bridging that, right? And so that way, because the consumer's going to ask for it, right? They already are asking for it, right, in their locales, and I think they're going to continue to ask for it, whether it be on a cruise ship, whether it be at a hotel in a vacation resort. And so I think that's something I agree that this year is going to be a change.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was just in Vegas for the Bar and Restaurant Expo and staying at a hotel that just was built a year ago. And it was like one of the most modern hotels. And there was one, I mean, it had like 15 or 16 restaurants in this area. And there was one out of the 15 that actually had a single non-alcoholic spirit available. So it's still at that beginning stages. And I think it's like, yes, ANBA's advocating and doing a lot of that stuff, but then it's also our amazing members that are producing great products and kind of pushing as well. And I think that's the fun thing about running ANBA is like I'm doing stuff, and then all of our members are just doing amazing work as well. And how do we capitalize and amplify each other's work? Yeah,
it's it's new, it's nascent, this category, right? In general, even though it's been around a while, the number of brands is growing each month. I feel like, it's still a new category, and there's still a lot of education, and there's the brand responsibilities, right? Mm-hmm. We do so much education, to our on-premise partners, and everything from, I think I kind of over-index on places that have really amazing cocktail menus that they would know, right? Kind of as like a one-for-one replacement. But they're like, no, give us recipes, give us help. And I'm like, well, I didn't want to insult you by bringing in a recipe when you're a well-known mixologist. But that's definitely a piece of it. And so there's so many people involved to grow this category. And the cool thing is, I agree, it's a close-knit community that almost everyone in the space that I've ever met is pulling their weight. Everyone's doing what they need to be doing to grow it. And I feel like with this unique juncture in time, where we would look back on when this was like kind of I don't know, maybe you would describe what age would you say if we had to take this movement and turn it into a person? I don't know, are we toddler, are we like 9 or 10? I mean, what do you think?
I think we're in toddler phase, but I think what we're trying to do is in a magical way go from toddler all the way to teenager much faster. And the reason I say that is because when you're thinking about vegetarian to vegan to plant-based and the decades that it took to get to where we currently are now in the consciousness of consumers in retail at restaurants and where it's on the menu, that took decades. And our goal, and now having an association at the beginning of this, is really to accelerate that process. So it doesn't take decades, it takes years to do that. So I think hopefully we're kind of accelerating that growth, because as you know, we're in it, we're excited about it. All those early adopters are really excited, but most people don't know about it. But I think that's where the unique and growth opportunity is as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. We got to give this baby its vitamins.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's go to the third question. This one's more lighthearted. We're going to pivot. This one's going to be a grab bag for you. It's meant for anybody watching this just to get to know something about you, to get to know you a little bit better. So I'm just going to throw some things out there. You can pick something on your own. It could be a hidden talent, weird food combination, word you always mispronounce, favorite decade of movies, anything you want to share that just helps us to get to know you a little bit better. We'd love to hear.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'll combine the first two, which is the food and the talent piece. So probably about 10 years ago, I found out I was allergic to a number of things, the typical dairy and gluten, but then I was still kind of having a little bit of an allergic reaction and found out I have I would say one of the worst allergies. It turns out that a little less than 1% of the population has this, which is I'm allergic to onion and garlic. So onion and garlic and it's not anything bad. It's like I get rashy, it's a little whatever, but it's in everything. And I think I overdosed because I used to just cook with so much onion and garlic, and I think I ate too much. But what it's forced me to do is be super, super creative about cooking and using a wide variety of different spices. So I have these so I'm kind of famous amongst my little community about certain dishes. Like I make a hummus, and then as well as guacamole, as well as curry. That's just people just like beg me to make, and it's got no onion or garlic as part of it. So people kind of don't understand how that's possible. So it's really forced me to be able to just be super, super creative. So that's kind of one of the things that I love doing. I love cooking and experimenting with all kinds of different spices and ingredients that don't have onion and garlic.
Yeah, my immediate reaction was to immediately feel so sorry for you because I cooked so much with onion and garlic, and I was like, oh no, those are the base for so many things. But it sounds like it's got a little right blessing in disguise, which is that kind of creativity piece that comes out. Next time we find ourselves in the same city and you're next to a kitchen, I have to try this guac with no onion, no garlic.
I mean, I call it guac. Like a lot of essentially my dishes are XYZ explosion. So it's like guacamole explosion. I have another mashed potato explosion, a bunch of kind of other things that I end up doing just because I go really far into super, super into the spices just to make it super, super, super flavorful. I mean, it's funny. I was at an event once and I was speaking and there was 150 people in the crowd, and I kind of led that I was allergic to onion and garlic. I was telling the story, and there was just this 150 people just sympathizing, and they were just like, oh. But yeah, I mean, it's led to something really wonderful in terms of being much more interested in cooking and being creative about it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate I'll echo kind of the things I led with, which is I really appreciate what you built and others built with ANBA, the service it does for all of us on the brand side, right? Which is the podium I can speak from in terms of navigating and growing this thing that we know is a good in the world and is helping a lot of people, whether they are looking for full-time sobriety and support in that, or whether they're curious about mindful drinking, or whether they just want to taste something that's delicious that doesn't have alcohol in it, and everything in between. And so I appreciate what you've done to set up the ANBA, and I appreciate your time with me today. You always have thoughtful insights, and I know those that watch this will will find them and hopefully enable them to go a step further in whatever their endeavors are.
Yeah, and thanks for having me, and thanks for being a member, and also just thank you for all the work that you're doing, and more importantly, just creating an awesome product. Like, one of the things that I use with Cut Above is mezcal Negroni. That's like my drink now. So that's what I usually do, a mezcal and a Negroni. It's like my drink. So thanks so much for creating awesome products that people can use.
Thanks, absolutely. Well, Marcos, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for being here with me on 3 Questions with Andy.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.